Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for being part of the team that helps students from the Valley to achieve their dreams, especially those dreams of becoming healthcare professionals. My colleagues and I are here to applaud your work and effort and to help you and your students realizing that dream. I am Dr. Lin Wang, Associate Dean for Student Success at the College of Health Professions.
Hi, I'm Dr. Livia Aguilera. I'm a clinical associate professor in the College of Health Professions. I'm a PharmD by profession, and I serve as executive director for special projects to the dean.
Hi, my name is Dr. Zelma Mata. I'm an associate dean for the College of Health Professions, and I also hold the department chair position for health and human performance.
We hope that our presentation will plant the seed of professionalism development, at least at seedling stage, to contribute to the ultimate goal of growing that seed into a tree for our students to become healthcare professionals, the best healthcare professionals. My mind was recently refreshed by a TED Talk that speaks to the 10,000-hour practice rule. You may have heard of this from the book Outliers by Malcolm Gladwell. 10,000 hours needed to become very good, very proficient at something. Someone who can actually perform at the highest level he or she can achieve. Interestingly, follow-up studies show that the first 20 hours of training is critical to help to develop the frame that someone operates under. Like all practices, there's a learning curve and a progression. To become a patient-centered healthcare professional, two sets of skills are required. One of them is the technical skills that is based on professional knowledge. Roadmaps, blueprints, degree plans are some of the buzzwords that you will hear from the Academy, of other presentations from the Academy that will speak to this progression. We are here to share our thoughts on the other required set, the soft skill set, people skills, if you will, that a healthcare professional needs. Backward training practice. What characteristics of graduates help themselves to make the transition to internships, practicum, or employment easier? What do our employer from the healthcare industry look for? In other words, what type of healthcare professionals do we want to have taking care of us? Here are a few examples.
So if you will, this is a checklist of what are desirable traits in the future health professional student and the eventual health professional working on a healthcare team. Ethics, integrity, moral principles. Some of these are things you can't teach, but certainly there are situations you can expose students to. Working in teams, teamwork is essential. Healthcare teams are now the norm. Each profession working together, bouncing ideas off each other, with the patient being the center of this care. Effectiveness, taking the initiative, being brave enough to take the initiative. These are traits that we need to develop in our students. Communication's key. Getting the right message to the healthcare team, getting feedback from the healthcare team in order to take excellent care of the patient. A life could depend on it. And certainly every problem has multiple solutions, especially in healthcare. So what we need to do is instill the ability to think outside the box, think critically, learning adaptability. Certainly this COVID situation has help train students to be adaptable. And finally, technology. We wouldn't even be able to present here today without a working knowledge of technology. I like this slide because it incorporates all the checklists, the wish list that we want our students to possess. And it also represents the world, because we're training students not just to serve the Rio Grande Valley and the state and the nation, but we have talented students that can change the world. And you're the ones that are nurturing these seeds, one student at a time. Think about this.
Yes, just like Dr. Aguilera mentioned, you are nurturing the students one day at a time, every time they come into your classrooms. We know that development of these people skills and these soft skills that we are discussing are instilled and embedded at home as well as in school. And you as an educator lay the foundation for the building of those soft skills. So very early on, as elementary children, we teach children how to share, how to behave, how to be, how to be responsible, how to, have integrity. So all these soft skills are a process, and through their education, these skills are sharpened, and students learn more and more every day as to how to interact with others and developing those critical communication skills. Now, how does this happen? Well, we know that these soft skills, as we've mentioned before, they begin the development from the time they come into your doorstep as elementary students and even in their home environment. So it's very important that as educators that we really be cognizant of these skills and develop them along the way. Now, looking at the secondary and the high school, this is an important time for our students to be engaging in activities that will allow for the growth of these soft skills that we speak about. Being able to communicate effectively, and being able to take part in extracurricular activities that's going to develop those soft skills outside of the classroom, which are very, very important. When they come to our doorsteps as college students, we also build upon the foundation that you have set. Okay, so through our service learning activities, experiential learning, student organizations, these are all enrichment activities that really help the student develop and sharpen these people soft skills, which are very important as future professionals in healthcare. We know that through these experiences, students really discover whether the health profession is really their calling. And it's really wonderful to see it happen when you see it happen in students and they say, wow, this is what I want to do. I want to help people. I have found my calling, and that's so important. So through these extracurricular activities and these experiences, other than what the learning that is happening within the courses that they're taking, this really does help them develop these skills and really discover what really is their passion. And upon graduation, as my colleagues mentioned, having those skills out in the workforce are very important. Having good communication skills with all types of audiences, and how important it is for our college graduates to be able to interact and have those soft skills, whether they're speaking with a doctor or speaking with another healthcare professional or a family member or the community. These skills that we speak about are very, very important as professionals to be able to interact at all levels and to be effective. And in the same, being sensitive, caring, and really being very genuine in all our actions and having integrity in what we do.
The admissions process. So I want to qualify this slide and let you know that I have served on several admissions boards for professional programs, and this slide represents many of the points that we look at for admissions and some of the advice that we give for an interview. at the first bullet point, course requirements. You can't get around that. I mean, a course requirement is a course requirement. I can't tell you how many times I've had students and even parents come and say, well, but they took this other course, they took addictions, but you know, we see sociology or psychology are required, but can this, well, no. If it says you need a certain course, that's what the way it has to be. On the other side of that first bullet point, meet specified GPA. I want to talk to you a little bit about that because admissions boards look at students holistically. And although GPA is very important, and I would encourage students to do the best they can in their courses, it's not everything. And sometimes we'll have a student that has a lower GPA, and I want to compare this, maybe if you could envision a sea of icebergs and you have some gigantic magnificent icebergs that soar to the skies. You know, these are the high GPAs, well-rounded students, and maybe a smaller iceberg that represents a not so high GPA. But if you look below the surface, below the water, you will see a massive piece of ice, maybe larger than some of the ones that are soaring above the water. And this represents that there's more depth, more to some students with lower GPAs. Maybe they're working 20 to 40 hours a week. Maybe they have a child. Maybe they're caring for an aging parent. Look at distance traveled. Maybe they're first generation. How far did this student get to be here applying for this program with a 3.0 GPA and no champions in their life? So look at students holistically. Please don't be the roadblock for a student with a lower GPA and say, no, this is not for you. Certainly anyone can do anything. And my advice is, if somebody comes into you and you think that they're just not the right person, just say, you know what, up to now, things haven't been going well, but today, change things, make a difference, strive harder, work smarter. The rest of the slide, I want to tell you that my tip to students and to faculty that are mentoring students is to recommend that students keep a professional journal, like a diary. But write in here events that they work in, offices they attain, and community service activities that they do, mentorship activities, something that makes an impression on them. For example, someone shadowing in a pharmacy could say, today I was shadowing in a pharmacy and Mr. Science was filling prescriptions. He was very busy, but he left the pharmacy counter to help a patient fill out a check to pay his light bill. Pharmacy is more than just filling prescriptions. It's caring about people. Or today I saw a supervisor yell at a stock clerk in front of other customers. I could tell he felt bad. Probably he should have taken them aside. Just different observations that you can look back on for material for your letter of interest. I also tell them, if you read a word one day or hear a word and you don't know what it is, write it down, look it up, use it in a sentence, put it in your personal journal. I do go one step further and say, write me an email using it. But this personal journal with all these notations will help to build the resume when they need to, will help with a letter of interest. Also seek out internships or shadowing opportunities. And I know that right now with social distancing, that's going to be harder, but you can seek out an interview. Ask your doctor, your pharmacist, your optometrist, ask someone, can I interview you? Ask them what they like about their jobs. Do research on the internet. This is what I would tell a student. Research schools and programs. Look at their mission statement. If the university or the program, if their mission statement says we want to help the South Texas community to increase health literacy, we want to make a difference in education in the South Texas, and that's what you want to do, well, your mission and their mission are aligned. Write that in your letter of interest. And then, of course, for the interview, professional appearance, courtesy. It doesn't have to be designer clothes, just clean, neat appearance, appropriate apparel. I always tell my students, you want to be remembered for what you say, not for what you were wearing or what part of your body was showing. And the practice answering questions, this is something maybe you could do a little seminar for and present scenarios. And it's really important to teach a student to have an elevator speech ready. You know, if you jumped on an elevator on the first floor with someone and they asked you, why do you want to major in communication disorders? And by the time you get to the 5th floor, the person on the elevator knows. You have it's like a 1-minute speech. Well, I want a degree in communication disorders because, for example, you can say, my own experience in school, I saw students that struggled with communication and they were uncomfortable and they didn't have confidence. And as a college student, I have mentored students in elementary schools, and I can see how training and support has made all the difference. Or my grandfather had a stroke and a speech therapist helped him regain verbal skills, and he was able to say, I love you again. And that was everything. I want to make a difference like that. So that's like a 1-minute elevator speech. Train students to develop their own. Preparation for college readiness. And you'll look at this list and say integrity, courtesy. You know, how do you teach that? How do you model that? I want to refer to a book. I know Dr. Wang recommended a book. I think it was Outliers, Dr. Wang, is that right?
Yes, exactly.
And I have another book that I want to recommend to you. It's called The 4 Agreements by Don Miguel Ruiz. And in it, he talks about 4 agreements or 4 precepts. And the first one is be impeccable with your word. You know, say what you mean, be truthful, don't double book, don't overpromise, mean what you say. And it's really, you know, be kind and courteous to other people. The second one is don't take anything personally. So the first one is for you to be kind, and the second one is if people are unkind to you, how to deal with it. It's not really about you when people are unkind to you. It's their own perception, and it doesn't really reflect on anything that you're doing. So just shake it off and keep going and do what you're doing. Don't make assumptions is the third precept, the third agreement. Find the courage to ask if you don't understand something. For students, this is really key. If you're in college and you don't understand something and you go to your professor and you develop that relationship with him, that sets the foundation for getting a letter of recommendation letter. And also, you know, when you're responsible for your own information, I've had students that show up on the wrong day at the wrong time for an exam because somebody told them, well, they had the syllabus, they could look it up themselves. Or they'll quote someone they heard at work on how to treat a patient a certain way, and it wasn't the right way. They could have looked up the guidelines themselves and gotten credit for the correct answer. So you're responsible for your own knowledge. And then the fourth precept is do your best always. And that sounds so easy, do your best always, but it's not easy because being excellent takes practice. Start being courteous and responsible in every day. If you see trash on the floor, pick it up. If sorry, I'm freezing here. Excellence takes practice, and if you practice being excellent, you will be excellent. Do you have anything to add, Dr. Wang, Dr. Mata?
I think the importance in teaching students time management skills is very important in being able to manage all the responsibilities as they continue on with their education, and really getting a handle of that early on. I think it's very, very important.
I'm sorry, I'm so glad you mentioned that, because that's another exercise, another tip I want to give to the counselors. If a student comes to them and says, I just can't get through this course, it's too much time, I don't have the time. And I do an exercise called A Day in a Life, but we do a whole week in a life. And we go Monday through Sunday and say, okay, tell me what you did when you woke up. And well, I brushed my teeth and I got ready and I went to class. And what did you do after class? Well, I had a 3-hour break. And then what did you do? Well, I went back and I slept. or I went to hang out with my friends. And you would be surprised at how many hours and hours and hours of video game students report when they're doing a day in the life, a week in the life. So we take this exercise and prioritize and find times for exercise and fun, but also we find so much time for studying.
You know, I'd like to add to that, Dr. Aguilera, that what I have seen in some of our college students is really struggling with time management because they have jobs, and some of them have 2 jobs, family responsibilities. So it's so important to teach students early on about time management skills, because a lot of times it's because out of necessity that you have a student that has 2 jobs, right?
That's true.
And it's so difficult for them, and they certainly can do the college work. It's just everything else they're dealing with that really burdens them in a different way. That's a challenge for anybody. I mean, I can't tell you how many students really struggle, single parents, you know, working late at night, and you know, time management is really a very important skill to learn very early on. Yeah.
If I may add to the list the problem-solving skills. That's actually an interesting one. When kids actually get to our doors at the roundup, they actually are put into scenarios to find solutions for practical problems right away. That may be a surprise for some of the students because they're used to just to listen to what the instructor would actually share with them in terms of information. That's critical for professional knowledge build. However, for us, the critical piece is actually make that transition so they can use that, apply the knowledge they've learned to come up with solutions, different solutions that Dr. Aguilera mentioned.
So how do this happens, this process that we've been talking about of soft skills and having these traits in students through their education from elementary all the way to a working professional? Well, as educators, it's important that we model it, that we model professionalism, that we realize that all eyes are on us, that children and us as educators, that children are looking up to us as to how we handle ourselves. You know, do we have integrity? Do we behave in a professional way, the way we express ourselves? All that is, you know, children are watching us. College students, even at the college student level, are really looking at their professors to model the profession that they've chosen. So being a positive role model, an exemplary role model of our profession is very, very important. And it's part of that process, and it's part of that foundation that keeps growing and keeps getting better with the students through their experiences and who they see and what they see happening. Now, at schools, it's important to also embed and promote character building into our curriculum. And I think Dr. Aguilera really hit on that with extracurricular activities and the importance of that. Building up that resume that she spoke about, and having students at a very early time in their education experience service learning. That is so important. That really helps them understand the importance of caring, being sensitive to the needs of others, and exposing them to diversity, you know, different people, different walks of life. And children feel so good when they do something good for somebody else, and really building on that goodness and, you know, building that healthcare worker that's going to have that sensitivity in working with people. So looking at our school curriculums, how can we enrich the development of soft skills in our students all the way through? Professional collaboration is so important also. This is having those opportunities to work with, at the college level, we call it IPE, which has to do with different healthcare workers working together to solve something, having that professional collaboration. again, offering a variety of extracurricular activities to develop those skills. And that is so important, as we've talked about. Being able to communicate with all different types of people, doctors, other healthcare workers, family, and the community at large, clients. This is all very important. Also being very sensitive to their culture, being sensitive of what is meaningful to them and how we can interact in a positive way with different people is so important. Also very important to offer career exploration activities. At the elementary, secondary level, it's important to be talking to students about different careers in health professions and School of Medicine, so they understand that there's a lot of options out there, and have them explore these different type of careers through activities, so they understand, well, what does a speech pathologist do? Okay, what does a PA do? What is an exercise physiologist? What is that about? So exposing young children through their education of different types of careers is very, very important. Dr. Wong, would you like to add anything about career exploration?
Right, agree totally with what you shared. We have a long list of different degree programs that our students can actually choose one or two to become with.
Now, Dr. Aguilera, you've talked about in your experience with pharmacy students that sometimes students change their mind. Is that correct?
Absolutely, absolutely. Students can change their mind, and we were lucky because this is prior to the pandemic, and we had students working in health fairs, and some students just didn't like working so closely with patients, and they decided to change their career path. They went more into research, or I even had one that changed to engineering. But in the same along the same lines, we had students that were maybe afraid or not sure. And once they got out in the community and they were working with patients, I remember one student didn't really want to touch a patient, and she gave a flu vaccine at the flea market at a health fair. And the patient, probably never been to a doctor before, looked at her and said, "Tienes las manos de un ángel. You have the hands of an angel." Oh my goodness, what a difference that made in her confidence. And something clicked in her that day. And she just, she knew without a doubt that this was what she was meant to be doing, working closely with patients, helping the community. She's a wonderful pharmacist today.
Yeah, so that demonstrates the importance in exposing students to all different type of possibilities, and having them explore them early on and throughout their education, so they can find, what is their calling, what is their passion. We all found our passion. They will too. We just need to guide them through that process.
Yes, we'll do quite a bit when they actually are at our doors, but help us to start that process.
Yes.
We really appreciate your time. Sorry.
We thank you for answering the call as well, because we know what you do is not easy, and we know that it is far-reaching and very important.
We really appreciate your time. You've heard quite a bit today by now. Do you have any questions? What are your thoughts? Or maybe best practices that you want to share? We'd love to hear from you. Our contact information is on the bottom of the slide. Email any one of us with your questions or comments. Thank you again for what you do. All best wishes to your future endeavors.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.